Good.
Finally on.
How are you, Bill?
I'm fine. I was telling Christina I've had a migraine headache most of the day.
Those aren't fun.
No, they're not.
Well, we got to see Dana Hendricks today.
Oh, you did? Where was that?
Well, she posted that she had 50 pounds of flour that she was trying to get rid of. And,
I saw that.
and so I said, well, I'll take some. And I wanted to pay her for them. She said $13 at Costco for 50 pounds of flour.
Oh, wow.
What?
That's what she said. And somebody brought it to her and wouldn't take any money for it. So she said, I'm certainly not going to take any money for it. So,
Wow.
Wow.
so fortunately, I had some spinach and lettuce out of the garden to share with her. So
We're returning to the barter system.
yeah, I like it.
Don't mind that at all.
So Paul's over here making tomato steaks.
Tomato
That's
steaks.
what I had.
Steaks for markers to mark
Oh,
tomatoes they are.
Oh, okay.
Fine,
Hello,
fine.
Sarah.
Hey,
hello.
I was eating supper. Sorry.
Quite all right. That happened to me last week. We were eating supper, and I said, "What time is it?" Oh, it's 6:30. I'm running in here.
Well, I don't feel so bad then. Thank you.
So you're back safe and sound.
We are back. Yes, we are.
Well, I thought that sounded like a great idea. I would like to copy it.
It was a very good idea for us. I think we would have lost our minds if we didn't get out of here for a minute. So
Running around.
I know
is
that
all-
feeling.
the
Where's
trouble is,
Paul?
but Paul,
Well, he's
Paul.
there.
He's here.
I'm working here.
he's
Oh, okay.
hiding.
Okay.
No, I'm here.
You can move over so you can be in the screen too.
There he is.
There he goes.
Proof of life.
He's always doing something. He's so productive, he makes me sick.
Oh,
He's an inspiration.
Perspiration.
He's a perspiration.
That too.
You're not in the picture.
Yeah, I can see.
There he is.
yeah, a little bit.
It's
Yep.
my head over there. My head.
Sit closer to me. We're in our office. We have these companion desks next to each other.
Oh,
Who would have told us 20 years ago that we'd need not only 2 desktops, but a laptop and a pad and iPhones and
Absolutely.
and if you're without him, you're dead.
I
Yeah,
know.
that's right.
We have so many Zoom meetings in our household that we kind of have to schedule who's using which computer when.
Oh my gosh.
I'll bet.
Yeah.
Well, I thoroughly enjoyed watching the performances of the 2 quartets.
Oh, thank
That
you.
was cool.
Great.
Thank you. They worked on that for a long time, and I hated that they didn't get to perform. So I was glad that they did the online performance.
And that's quite a feat to get all of that coordinated, I would think.
It is. The director did that. We recorded just their individual piece. EI and Jackson did it with metronomes. And then we sent them in, and then the other players had the earbuds in so they could hear the cellos on the bottom and played along with it. And then
Well, that's pretty good.
Especially the written piece that Jackson played on. I mean, it was like definitely. I mean, he was it for a few bars. You know, I love the way they did the pictures that they just brought them in and all that. I just thought that was cool.
well, I cannot claim that they did that for us, but it was neat. So
It was.
yes. Well, I think we might be it. It looks like we were a few minutes in. Were you all able to get the video this week?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yes, we saw it.
Yes, excellent. What did you think about that? Bill texted me last night when he saw it, so I've had a taste of his thoughts. What'd you think?
I think it's high time somebody was, verbalizing. I've heard that expressed before, but the world is not Eurocentric anymore,
No.
and we need to understand. I liked her idea about, spirit God. We've talked about that. Grace, that it's God is God. It's not a man or it's not a woman. It's not a finite person. It's an all-engulfing spirit that embraces all of creation.
Yeah.
I like it.
As I told Katina last night, I was kind of upset with the interviewer. It seemed to me like he was trying to bait her several times. Particularly referred to the Korean hippie ideas that she was proposing and so on. Is this a Korean or 1960s hippie kind of idea?
I thought he was being devil's advocate.
I think well, you put it that way, but I thought he was just trying to bait her, and she wasn't going to bite. She didn't bite at all. She just took it on and just went on. So
yep.
She brought up some things that I've, when I was shortly after we moved to Cincinnati in the early 90s. Katina, you may remember the Reimagining Conference that took place in Minneapolis in '93.
Yes,
okay.
That's a scandal.
Yeah. She spoke there at that, as I understand, when there was and that brought back a lot of the stuff that was brought up shortly after that, which caused several people in the denomination to lose their positions, big positions, particularly in the women's. It did away with the women's ministry division of the Presbyterian Church USA, and she was talking about some of the things they were talking about in 1993, which I thought was amazing. We're finally getting around to actually talking about some of that stuff, different images about God, and thinking about God in a different way, and so on. And I was just I kept saying, yes, yes, yes.
We've always, I think, expected I'm thinking of Hani and his family and, others who are from different cultures and different traditions. And we just kind of, I think, have always assumed that they, would adopt, our view of God and who God is and what God looks like and what Jesus looks like and everything. And she's right. Jesus was a Jewish man. He was probably darker skinned and,
wasn't very tall.
Well, no, probably not. Yeah.
Yes.
Certainly not blue-eyed and blonde.
We have a Canadian land from Haiti, and all the people are black. They're not. There's a white man in the middle of the table. They're all black.
Yeah. And that's the issue at the church, that for years, as she said, over 2,000 years, it's been white men who've dominated the church.
Yeah.
Right.
And that those who are in power are the ones who determine what we say and believe. So.
And who we marginalize as well.
I
And who we
agree.
marginalize, yes.
Although I think it is human nature to remake God in our own image.
Yes.
Sure.
That's a tendency that man has. One of our downfalls.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because we want a God that we can relate to. So we make God look like our granddaddies.
Yeah. Yes, we call him Father, and we think he's like our Father.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And my granddaddy was like 5'7", so short man.
That we put an image on God. We put an image on Jesus. God looks like my grandpa. Jesus looks like my brother. And we've decided what they look like. Why do we do that?
I think people believe it helps us to relate better to them because they look like us, they act like us, they talk like us. People are more comfortable with that. They're not always comfortable with meeting someone who may look different or talks differently or acts differently. And we tend to marginalize those people. And I think that's probably what the church was trying. Remember as she said, at the time, things were very different in that day and age. That those in power were the ones who determined who did what and when. And I think that's what I think was going on a lot of the times. And Jesus rocked the status quo.
One of my grandmother's good friends was a missionary to China in like the early to, the second third of the 20th century, whatever. And when she was there, it was like they not only were they thought they were taking Christianity, but what they were kind of also doing was taking Western culture.
Yes.
And they were trying to they wanted them to worship God in the same way that we worship God. And that lady, to her credit, after many years, she forgot that and she found that didn't work. So she tried the other way around, that she tried to become, more like them. But that has been a problem.
It has been a problem, and the church has been guilty of that. And we've gone into not just in places like China, in Korea, Japan, all the different places we've gone with our Christianity. We've tried to impose our images, if you will, and our language on God instead of looking at what it is.
Thinking we're superior.
Yeah, thinking we're superior. We think we have all the answers. And the church has always thought that, I think. Mm-hmm. So you go back and look at. Go ahead.
Is unique to our culture, or does this happen everywhere? Do you think that they are imagining in China? Do they imagine God as a Chinese man? Does this happen everywhere, do you think, or is this something that we've created in our society?
You look at the images that they used and they create in those different societies and cultures. All of them look like the culture they live in. Mm-hmm. The Buddhists, the Hindus, those in China. Confucianism, the typical Chinese man. Same thing I think is true in Japan. So you look at the statues that they created over the years, and the paintings and the drawings and stuff. The images that they use are the ones that they can relate to. They look like them, and we all do that. I think everybody does that. Every culture has done that. That's why it's so hard for people to understand liberation theology and black theology or feminist theology and things like that. It drives them crazy because it doesn't fit the mold that they've been taught and shown what it should be. So
I have some images I'm going to share with you if I can make it work. And
you're young, you can do these things.
I hope so. All right, are you seeing this?
Yes.
All right. Have you seen this image before?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So where do you think we're going to see an image like this?
It was hanging in the sanctuary in the first church that I served in Cincinnati, at Salem Presbyterian Church as a student. That's the exact same picture hung on the wall at the front of the sanctuary with the cross in front of it.
We would see this probably in white churches, in Caucasian churches.
Yeah. That hang in the Sunday school room there at New Hope for years.
Mm-hmm. And okay. On your flannel boards too.
Yes.
That's true.
So what's appealing about this image? Why is it everywhere?
He looks kind.
Mm-hmm.
He is not too blonde, not too dark, medium brown hair.
He looks strong too.
Yes, he does.
Yes, I don't mind that. Beard's okay.
The beard's okay.
And it's well manicured too.
Yeah.
He is handsome.
Yeah.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, so we like that, right? We're drawn to, we think this, if we're going to worship this God, then we want him to be handsome. We want him to,
his hair is not dirty. His hair has been manicured. He's done well. Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Very successful looking.
All right, well, now look at a couple others of these. This is another image of Jesus. Would you
Okay.
have this one hanging here?
Might see that in the Asian church.
Right. Looks like the one they had hanging on the wall at the Korean church here in Knoxville.
But he definitely looks, he looks what you call what, patrician? He looks
Very masculine.
yeah, well, yeah, masculine, but you know, I'm
But also kind and
kind.
strong,
I agree.
you know, and loving.
And again, the beard is well kept. It is.
All right, have a look at this. This is Mary with Jesus.
Mhm.
It looks Indian.
Uh-huh.
Is it Indian?
I don't know that, I actually don't know the name of this, so I don't know much about it other than that it was called Mary and Jesus. So
I would say either Indian or South American indigenous.
Yeah, indigenous. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. More South or Mexican.
Well, darker skinned though than Mexican.
I'm not thinking about American Indian. I'm thinking about Indian.
Right, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Indian, yeah.
It's a little too Western for Indian. It's more Western
look what
Indian.
you've got.
What is that? Oh, the Last Supper.
I'm going to put you back on here for a second.
Oh,
Oh, how neat.
I love that.
No, that's from Haiti.
Yeah.
Oh, I
No
love
way.
That's the Last Supper.
Can we put Paul in the big picture?
You can, if you click, you'll have to do it on your own. Click at the top in speaker view, and then he'll need to say something.
Oh, okay.
Hello. This is the Last Supper from Haiti.
Oh, I got it. Okay.
You got
Yeah. Oh, wow. And that's from Haiti?
Yeah, it's from Haiti.
Makes sense to me.
One of the markets down there.
Sure.
Kind of a
Kind
primitive.
of reminds me of.
I think it tells you something. It says something about the what people think about Christ.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Oh, wow.
Absolutely. All right, I'm going to put you back on here for a second and show you a couple others. What about this?
it's got okay.
Ah,
Where's that from?
Oh, that's a good looking man. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, this looks like he could be a movie star, right?
Uh-huh.
Eastern Orthodox.
It's too dark for Eastern Orthodox, don't you think? Turkish, maybe?
Possible.
I don't know.
Very strong,
Mm-hmm.
looking right at you.
Some Mediterranean.
What language is the?
The text is English. It says, whatever you did to the least of these, you did it also to me.
Is that Afro-American then?
I don't think so.
Huh.
Well,
Or,
Well,
could be.
it could be.
or Latinx, Latino.
I didn't know what that Latinx meant.
I'm not even sure. I'm not sure.
heard that phrase before.
Latinx. Yeah.
I don't know. Oh,
Now, that's American
Native
Indian.
American.
right. What's that symbol in his hand? I wonder.
That's a nail hole.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yep, I bet you're right.
I think you're right.
Because if you look at his feet, that's his shoes. Never mind. I enlarged
Well,
it.
no.
Oh no, they have the same thing in his feet.
Yeah, those aren't shoes.
Those are
Oh,
not
yes, you're right. You're
Yeah.
right. They're not shoes.
What's he holding in his other hand?
that I don't know.
I don't either.
Yeah. Can't tell.
Maybe leaves or something. Oh, he has a bird's flying around with it.
Yeah, there's a raven in the picture.
Right.
Is it a raven or an eagle?
Well, oh yeah, maybe an
Hard to
eagle.
tell.
It's got white tips on its wings.
He's
The
got,
plate in front of him is the Passover plate.
Is that, or the loaf and the fishes? The
I
loaf.
Yeah, could be. Yeah.
Interesting. Huh.
All right. What about this one?
Now, that looks
looks
South American or middle,
Native American, I don't know.
Central American.
It looks, he's got, almost looks like he has the Indian cheekbones.
Yes.
But you're right,
could
that
also
roll
be-
looks like Central American.
Yeah. Could be Navajo.
Now that looks like native.
That could be Asian.
It could be Haitian. It could be African. It could even be American.
African American.
African American, yeah.
Yeah.
But I'll bet you it's African.
Mhm. My guess is probably also Catholic because of the flaming heart.
Well, he's got the nail hole in the.
Yep. In the hands. In both hands, one on each side.
Yeah.
Hand. Interesting.
What commonalities are you seeing with all of these different images from around the world? They're all images of Jesus, with the exception of one being Mary with Jesus. What commonalities are you seeing?
We all had halos.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mhm. The
They
nimbus
also-
is always there.
We're all men. They were all men.
That's true. That's true. I think we universally accept Jesus as masculine.
Yes.
He looked strong. He looked kind in all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You know, didn't look wimpy.
Can you picture all of those pictures hanging on a church somewhere? Maybe not at Powell, but somewhere?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, I have one more to share with you here. This one, she actually showed us in the
Yes.
film we watched. This one is the one that was, this was put out several years ago, maybe a decade or so ago now. And it's what the archaeologists have decided is the most realistic view of Jesus. This is most realistically what he looked like. Now, what does this look like? What we've drawn in these other pictures? What are the similarities? What are the differences?
Kind eyes. Very kind eyes. But not as well kempt.
No.
Oh,
Well, he has curly hair. The others all had straight hair.
That's right. Curly hair.
mhm.
And a mustache to go with his beard, you know, and thicker lips than
Yep.
the European Jesus.
Right.
Bushy eyebrows.
Very Middle Eastern.
Well,
Yeah.
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 He was. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember when this image was first put out and put on the internet, people would absolutely berserk, say that's not Jesus.
Yeah.
They did not like this whole image of Jesus. They thought it was too rough. It didn't look like their image of Jesus. What they wanted to see was the white Jesus with
Right.
blonde hair, blue eyes. Because I know that lit up the Presbyterian website several years ago when people were commenting on this picture. No, that's not Jesus.
Yes, it
can't
is.
be Jesus.
He looks like that picture to me looks like a man who is kind, you know, that you could, yeah. If you can tell that by looking. But
Why might this image not be the one that we have latched onto in American culture? Even though they've told us, realistically, this is the closest we can get to what he really looked like. Why are we still hanging up pictures of the Fabio Jesus.
Oh, good.
That's a good term. I like
Good. Because that's the picture we grew up with.
Yes, we
That's
grew
what
up
we're comfortable with.
with it.
Yeah.
That's why.
And that's what the religious leaders have told us all these years. For 2,000 years, we've had this European male culture that, said this is what he's supposed to look like.
Well, if you said this other guy is Christian or Jesus, then somebody criticizes you and say you're not a Christian.
That's right. I have several pieces of Salvadorian art that I picked up when I was in Salvador years ago, and people always complained that I had them hanging on my wall in my office. There's one they're in a box now of the Last Supper with Jesus with a Latin American type face and so on, and it used to drive people crazy. That's not Jesus. And I'd say, yeah, well, this is their image of Jesus. Their image is very different from ours, So.
Do y'all remember the movie about the 4-year-old boy that had the near-death experience and said that he saw Jesus, and they were showing him pictures, and he's no, that's not the one I saw.
No.
And then there was a girl in Russia who had a near-death experience and was an artist, and they posted her picture, and that's him, all right.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
I was encouraged also by that movie because when he met his grandfather, it was his 30-something grandfather and not his 80-year-old grandfather. So the body was restored.
That's good news.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a best-selling book too.
Yes, it was.
Book about that. Yes. So,
Do you think
the pastor at the
Go ahead, Bill.
Big Mecca Church in Cincinnati had a near-death experience, and he described the Jesus that he saw. And when he was interviewed there, that's a church. That's the Vineyard Church in Cincinnati with 20,000 members. Can you imagine a church that size? And he described it in this sermon, and people got up and walked out because it was not the image that they had of Jesus that he painted for them. Was very different. He was not Asian, Middle Eastern, dark skin, dark hair, curly hair, dirty looking, in fact. So that was the image that he painted of the Jesus that he saw when he died and went to heaven and then came back. So I thought, well, okay, whatever.
Well, I think people in general have wanted their religion to fit within their comfort zone. Yes. And they would like their image of God and their image of Jesus to fit in that comfort zone too. And what the lady in the video was pretty much letting us know is that we need to expand our image of what God is and what Jesus is, and we need to expand our comfort zone.
And what gives us the right to put God in a box?
Thank you. Yeah.
Well, I think the other thing she was saying was that we have to stop imaging God like that and reimagine him as a spiritual being,
right?
A large, almost undescribable type being that's you can't actually envision in your mind. I don't know how she said it.
That God is infinite, and we don't understand infinite.
If you can wrap your head around infinite, good luck.
Well, I think her idea of she understands it as a spirit God, right. And probably because we don't need to bind him in a body, especially one that looks like ours.
Right, the great I am.
Yep.
He made the comment that we have created God in our image, where it should be, the scripture says we were created in God's image.
God's image.
Flip that around. And I thought that was very wise. And And we feel like we need an image. We need a picture of God. What does God look like? It's important to us. And I think her idea was, if you can draw a picture of it, you're not thinking big enough. You're
right.
Yeah. Why would that make us uncomfortable, though? Obviously it does, or we wouldn't keep doing it our way.
I think because we have to be in control. You know, if we can't explain it, then, you know, it must not be real. It puts skin on God where, you know, where we can understand it.
And we make him fit into our world.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
As we understand it.
Yes. Kind of reminds me of that quote from J.B. Phillips, "Your God is too small." We try to fit God into a box and create God in a specific way. And that's not possible. It's just not possible. Because God is much bigger than that. God is infinite. And I like the image of the Spirit God. That's what God is. So.
It becomes very difficult to justify our violence, our hatred, our cruelty to each other if we think about God being all-encompassing. It becomes very difficult. So if we can put God in a box and say God is here, then anyone outside of that box, it's okay to hate. It's okay to destroy.
We give ourselves permission. I think she called it marginalizing other people. Yeah. You know, and somehow if God is like us, then, you know, these others must not be chosen.
Or I am made in the image of God, therefore I'm God's agent or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah. Listen to me.
Right.
Yeah.
I will be who I will be.
Yeah. Yeah, right. I liked her focus on the fact that our interpretation of theology regarding God is love, but it's love distorted.
Yes.
And the distortion of love can lead to all those phobias and all the isms. That's a lot to wrap your brain around for me.
Sure.
Yeah.
I have this idea that, you know, that time between Good Friday and Easter, that somehow Jesus appeared to every person on earth, every tribe and every nation. And, you know, just because they didn't understand him in the European way doesn't mean that he doesn't exist for them. And you know, when we came as settlers to the United States and you know, tried to turn all the Indians into Christians, and, you know, what was wrong with their religion?
Thank you.
Well, they already had a spiritual life.
Yeah, they were spiritual, more spiritual than the Europeans who came and took them over.
Well, in fact, they had respect for all of God's creation, not just the people, but also the air and the land, plants. And
yes.
Have you heard the Native American carol? It's in the new hymnal. It's called the Huron Carol.
Right. It's in the old one too.
Is it in the old one too?
Oh, yes, it is.
I didn't know. I knew it was in the blue hymnal and the new Glory to God hymnal, but I wasn't sure about the others.
Oh, well, it's in the blue one. To me, that's not about the old one. Yeah.
Well, the one I grew up, the hymn book, and then the worship book, which some may remember. I don't know.
Mighty get
it's
you
not in there.
Too.
Yeah, to get you mighty too.
Get you mighty too.
A beautiful carol. Mm-hmm. It really is a beautiful story. Mm-hmm. And there again, it was a missionary who wrote that down with their language and then translated it into French and then into English. So, and the Cherokee have a very similar song too, that they talk about the Great Spirit. It's been translated from the Cherokee language into English. So,
and who are we to say that their Great Spirit is not part of our spirit God?
yes.
That sometimes we think that God wants to be called only by God, and I'm thinking my God's bigger than that.
Yes.
It's anything that represents love and goodness and respect, and is God. So
we definitely have a long way to go as a church and a society, but I was grateful to find this video and to see that the conversation is happening, because Bill's right. In '93, using feminine pronouns for God was scandalous, and
it was.
It caused a lot of trouble. They used the word Sophia, which is in Scripture, talking about it's the personification of wisdom. As a God image, and they used that, and many people lost their jobs.
Yes.
And that was as recently as '93. And so here we are, a couple of decades later, ready to have these conversations, although I think it's still uncomfortable. I think we're still, we get a little bit itchy. I think.
I'll bet you each one of us could name a quote group that we would be uncomfortable saying, yes, he's their God too.
Yeah, if we're very, very honest about it, I think you're right.
Yep.
Well, we did that with our Islamic friends.
Oh, sure.
Muslims. We demonize them because we think they don't believe the same God. It's the same God. It's just they're just different of God.
Right.
We're coming up on the minute mark. I'm sorry, go ahead, Marcia.
I was going to say we demonized the Chinese when we got the coronavirus, for crying out loud.
Some people still are. There's that commercial on TV.
Yeah. Oh, that makes me sick.
Yeah, and right now, society is very divided over this news case that's been around a lot about this the young man who was killed recently.
Yes.
And that's brought race to the surface quite a bit. So we're seeing it, and we're ready to have these conversations, but it's hard. These are hard.
And we think we've come a long way, but really we haven't.
Right.
Yeah.
We're under a minute. We're going to get cut off. I'd like to pray with you before we break, though. And it's good to see your faces. Let's pray. Holy One, we give you thanks that you come to us and meet us where we are. And we give you thanks that you are bigger than any image we have put upon you. And forgive us, God, for attempting to put you into a box, and help us to see you for what you are, the Spirit who is greater than all, infinite and beyond all understanding. Help us to daily move towards a comprehension of how great you are, and help us to never marginalize people and put them outside of the box of